No way J-Pro's got the song name, dude. That's wild.
He guessed it?
He got it, dude. It's the NFL Films music Roundup by Sam Spence. He nailed it, dude. How did you figure that out, J-Pros? You're like, I'm not gonna lie, like, out of all the people in the world that I have associated with when it comes to like making references and them understanding it, J-Pros is probably the last person that I figured would have gotten it, but he got it. How you doing, Austin? Good to see you.
Good for you, J-Bros. I'm doing good, man. I was, before our call, I was like, I'm feeling good today. We got some good matches. We got some fantastic breakdowns to the fuse. We got it all happening today. So it's gonna be a good day, man. It's gonna be a good day.
We do. We're gonna be going over hopefully 2 different maps. The first one that we have is actually from CDL New York. It's actually gonna be the London Royal Ravens playing up against the New York Subliners. Try to get a look at both of the squads, even though we know that they're not playing necessarily up against each other today in this particular matchup. But we wanted to go over it because it showcases both the teams on maps that we're likely going to see from these guys. Both of these teams are, I won't say like the most prevalent squads when it comes to playing on Hackney Yard, but they definitely go there pretty routinely. So it'll be interesting, I think, to kind of maybe break this one down. This was a map 4 between these guys in a knockout match, actually. This is actually a pretty big match for both these squads.
Yeah, and I think like the big difference from yesterday from today as well is we're obviously watching this one live, so like we're gonna be breaking this down on the fly, which I feel like is gonna come a lot more natural to everyone watching as well, to see like how like moments that like breakout happen, and essentially. So I feel like things will be like also a little bit quicker because we're gonna have to get through both maps today too. Yesterday we got a little carried away. I couldn't believe like an hour had passed by, right? But yeah, it should be good today.
Let's jump on over. Let's go ahead. Let's jump on into this thing. Yeah, let's do it. So like we mentioned, we're going to jump into this Hackney Yard for these dudes, obviously. And this was, I think, the final map in the series, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think this one went game 5. No, it did not go game 5. So this was the final map of the series, but this is one of those things that, a little buffering right there. Did you get that too? Are you good?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Let me pause and reestablish here. Are you paused?
I'm paused.
Okay.
General manager,
Take a look at this. So we often talk a lot about the first 2 hard points is all about for New York right now. Can you find a significant amount of time on P1, and then obviously beyond that, can you find a way to break? But when things get really scary early is when the team from the favored side is able to control warehouse. So there was a scary moment right there in the middle where he thought for a second, based off the opening kills, London was going to take time, but fortunately New York still gets in. And now you've got a number of players that are actually in this hard point in which you just have to win your trades, right? That's the whole idea, is play your trades.
Yeah, you got to play your trades, and like it's all a lot on the break, right? Like if you do have a bad break, it feels like on Hackney Yard when you're on the unfavored side, like it feels like you can just get put right in the ringer right away, right? Like you can go down almost like 100 points. So it's pretty crucial. And then when you like actually have the control here now, like New York Subliners are in a great spot. Like you've obviously already collected like a big 35 off of this first hill, and as long as you keep just funneling your numbers right inside of the warehouse here and effectively trading like Zuma is doing here, finding kill after kill, like you're now in a spot where it's like, okay, we have just collected like over 50 points coming off of P1. So even if they hold a full 60, it's going to be pretty much an even game going into P3. So this is actually really good for New York, and they're actually coordinating a pretty good push here too.
I was just about to say this would be a good moment to look at how they're trying to break this hill that's coming up right now, because what you're essentially seeing, as I need to open up my Epic pen, is that this is like a full flood, but it's calculated in a way to where as New York is set up, they're also able to watch the crosses through. This whole play is calculated to come out of the exits and come right back in from the bottom side. This is probably the most common way we see P2 try to get broken, is that you just hold up your AR or 2 ARs or someone. It doesn't have to be an AR, but typically your AR player is going to be watching over the long cross, whether it's from the top of this brick wall or you'll be sitting in a spot like in this cubby kind of doing the same thing to make sure that your teammates have a free flood from the bottom. So that's essentially what we're getting set up with here for New York. And this is, I think, probably the best way to try to break through P2, mostly because the neutral spawns are going to be out here and out here typically. Rarely do I see people spawn in the middle, but it does happen every now and again. But you're going to probably spawn someone north or south. So that's where I love the play that you're kind of putting someone post up and then you're full flooding around the bottom in the attempt that at worst, the spawns will essentially turn into this for London and then hopefully something like this for New York. Which is like, it just comes down to the timing of the kills, right? So this is a good attempt for attempt to break.
So great
Yeah.
Oh,
And
this is
Zuma
where
gets
Zuma,
in.
yeah, Zuma gets in here. Like, this is actually like so bad for London, right? Because there's the chance to like flip things out. Like, if they were able to find like actual control inside of the hill, then you can just like change all your attention to just watching the door and maybe dedicating one player to watching the bottom here. And yeah, like this is like a really scrappy hill for London. Like, this is honestly a really tough hold on their part. Like, you lost 45 seconds or 50 seconds off of the first hill, and now you're struggling to hold on to P2, which is not what anyone wants to see. And this was also like the meta where like it favored New York too, right? Like, you can see Temp, like he's running an assault rifle, which I'm pretty sure he's flexing a lot of ARs right now, and we're probably going to see that today. So this is like best case scenario right now for New York right now, and now they can just set up the spawn trap, as you can see.
Yep, that's really. I mean, that's an incredible P2 for New York. It's one of those things that we look at the second hard point, and we sit there and say, even if you contest for a second, that is successful. Like, good job. Like, sure. Congratulations. So the fact that you're actually able to hold them to just around 30 points is pretty great. So now it's just about, for New York, because you hit, the thing that they're missing out on here is how they're kind of watching the exits. Because this is essentially what you're trying to do. Usually someone somewhere on the window, someone inside a warehouse. You're trying to set up a defensive line that looks like this in some instance, to where you're able to watch the exits come out of P2. The problem is they don't really do that, but they have essentially forced London to take the worst of two routes, which is to go around the backside. More often than not, you're going to see teams want to take control of the warehouse, because this area at top L is so crucially important when it comes to defending against reinforcements and putting pressure on the hill. If you have to go around the back, you're not doing any of that. You have to jump this wall blindly to where you very well could be looked at from already top L or top AC, more importantly, which is where it attaches. This is not the rotation that London wants, but it's one of those things that you're looking at three options. You're looking at option number one, which is the preferred, to exit through warehouse. Option number two is to exit through the top side of office. Or option number three is you don't find success anywhere and you're just held. So you're going to take that, I think, more than not being able to get to where you want to go. But this is tough. This is a tough exit for London. This is a lot of time for New York. Tons of time for New York.
Yeah, the pressure is definitely on, and it looks like London now like are able to claim that actual warehouse spawn. Like, you have to actually funnel someone specifically through the warehouse in order to claim that spawn and get it.
Big win.
They're able to get it now, and then you actually have the spawn out like right here for us. That happens like right behind or rather right beside the P5 house. So like New York pushes, I think, a little bit too far, and I'm gonna try and see if I can actually go back on it here for us. But like you can see, like there's like certain moments I feel like that we also pointed out yesterday where you almost like a push a little bit too far, and like you have like green and warehouse control right now for New York, but it feels like there's like a moment right as I'm gonna play this out right here. It's like a moment where you see them push a little bit too far, I feel like, in towards green, and because they have the L control, it just like it almost feels like a fortunate spawn that ends up coming through right behind. And then New York's in the spot where they're still in control of the lead, but it feels like, all right, now we have to try and battle back for like the favorite spawn here again. So it feels like maybe a slight misplay, but maybe also the game playing a factor in towards them. Either way, like New York still having themselves a pretty comfortable lead is going to be pretty fitting here, and they're still actually collecting a good amount of the scrap time and have rotation. So it's a pretty clean hard point so far.
I was just about to say, again, this is one of those situations like you mentioned, and the play does come through where he essentially sneaks through the backside. I forget who it was for New York, but because they had control of green, like you mentioned, yeah, it's going to force the spawn out by useless. But honestly, this is not a bad time to lose spawns. Like, there's so much time to win them back. And so, you know, you kind of break through that whole play. And I just realized I'm not sharing my Discord screen with you anymore. So let me do that real quick so you can see what I'm drawing whenever. Wait, am I sharing it? No, I'm not. Hold on.
I was watching the. Yeah, you're good.
Let me start this up here. Now you should be able to see it. The whole play idea that I feel like is. This is okay because remember this how everything kind of formed in the first place. London has to make this exit from 2 to 3. They do eventually get spawns, but look what New York is doing to them right now. You're in a position to where you're watching those angles 100%. You're spawn trapping them. And if you're spawning out by useless, that's a free rotation into the hill. So this is not a bad situation at all, in my opinion, for New York. You have time, if you win another good clean set of kills, to flip the spawns back. So even though, yeah, you're not technically getting the spawns perfect to how you want them, because you're up 50 points, you're still feeling very comfortable at the situation that you have at hand right now. And yeah, 0's 2 and 13. That doesn't help. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh man, that definitely doesn't
yeah.
help, does it? Yeah, that's obviously a problem for sure. Well, this is also like an interesting time too because like Mac, accuracy, and I think temp like are all running ARs right now, and like it just feels like when New York is getting set up, like it's obviously that much more difficult to break from London's point of view, and like that's probably why some of the subs are also having a really tough time. I think this was one of the worst, sub performances across the entire league for every single player that played at this event, just due to the nature of the meta
Yeah.
at the time, which is going to be reflective of what we see, I think, today from some of the players on New York.
I agree. It just comes down to how many are they going to use? And this is what I'm talking about again, just to kind of re-hit one last time. So there was that moment where you saw essentially New York is holding from one side of the hill, London's on the other. They're essentially 50-50 in the hard point, but New York is setting themselves up to essentially sit there and say, okay, we're 50 in this. We're not going to lose our gunfights inside the hill. We're going to force them to take the fight to us because we're already in a really good spot. Look at the lead that we're in right now. We're up by 60 points. We're feeling pretty solid. So while all this contest is happening, you're going to free up a couple of players to try to push mid-map, and then as soon as you win the gunfights inside the hard point, you exit and you're double hitting for spawns early, which is what you're currently seeing on the north side of the minimap when you've got players like Accuracy and Mac that are already trying to influence P5. You got to keep in mind that we're still on the old hill for another 6 seconds. So while they're essentially sitting out here playing their lives for as long as possible, you're also waiting for this long hit to come around the backside. You're going to hopefully try to force the spawns of London back over towards P2 in some instance. Doesn't matter if it's on the north side or the south side, but you're trying to force them back to the opposite side of the map. And you can see like Accuracy's just trying to hold on to his life. He's not able to do it, unfortunately. And I think ideally you would like to have an AR where attached currently is top L, but yeah, I think that it's a little bit of a unfortunate where your weapons found themselves, but the push through I think is the right idea for New York. And it forces London to have to play a perfect 60 here too.
This is like interesting spot because like, all right, so what New York is doing right here is I think the best way to break P5, where right, like this is, I mean, like I'm actually doing a breakdown specifically on this hill from like Triumph, and like Triumph, like I was talking to like DiamondCon and like Royalty, and like they like always like breaking like this hill from P5, and like you have one player that typically does the box jump, or you can see like player 5 is right now, he can do the box jump to P3, and then you have everyone that funnels the resources through yellow. You try to get a smoke down right in the choke point in between yellow and like the little boxes there where you see number 8 currently just right in front of in the corner. So once you like funnel your numbers through this side of the map, you also gain the close spawn that comes right by the camper as well. So
yeah,
once you're able to control that, right, like you're usually spawning them out green, and then you can just have the top control with top heaven and like from top 2 in the actual hard point to pretty much net you all the control you need on finding a successful break. But they decided to like send one player over towards like the other side, which is fine because like you're just trying to split the attention, and then you can see them like blocking this close spawn for a quick moment here and forcing them to spawn over side green. So it was good for a quick moment. It didn't win enough gunfights, yeah, to be able to actually get themselves inside of the hill, and I don't think they full committed to one side or the other either.
That literally is one of those things, just like really briefly, that also comes down to the timing of the kills. So like essentially what you saw there was like, because London had to spawn up first, they spawned out technically out, but then because they get another kill close to the hard point, it actually forces New York to spawn further away, because essentially the zone of control looked like this for a second. So London's essentially going to spawn in the middle, but then because London deal with the pressure at camper, it actually forces New York to spawn like further out. But this actually, again, it's not ideal because you didn't get the break that you wanted, but it works out to a way of sitting there, and it makes the decision-making process super easy. Okay, 20 seconds left. We have to concede this, and we just spawned up by P2. All right, let's just set up our zone of control and just make sure we hold the spawns for tire shop coming up in the future. So it's just one of those things that you're not getting that normal 50-50 kind of foot race to who gets the tire shop first, mostly because of how the spawns kind of staggered themselves further and further back away from P2. And that all is just timing of the kills. Like if New York finds the kills first, they spawn in, right? Like that very well could have been a different situation just depending on the timing of the kills.
London actually bring things back, so as much as New York like could have prioritized that P4, and like obviously they had the spawn flip out, it ends up playing in London's favor here, as they're able to bring the game pretty tight. But
it's like, it's one of those moments, and I'm gonna pause it because I have to get in my soapbox for a minute. I get this so often when I go back and do a VOD review, and I'll call a game like right now. It's like, for instance, like before this hard point opened up, it was what, 113 to 107. And that's a close game in the immediate, but I'll start framing up the fact that this is about to be a blowout if London doesn't break this first hard point. And people are like, what are you talking about? It's a close game. It's a close game right now, but think about what's about to happen. If New York hold this hill, they're already set up for P2. That's 105 seconds they can confirm if they hold the 45 plus the 60. This is about to be a blowout unless London break right now.
And they're getting all this time again. I mean, Roy Ravens, you haven't got a second here.
And you can kind of hear Maven starting to talk about that too. Like, you can kind of hear it in his voice, like, things are getting a little bit bad. Yeah, he's talking about the fact that you once again have spawns from Tire Shop. This is a good clean kill feed though for London. So yeah, you could again pull the game back, if not potentially take the lead, but you still have to find a way to get over to P2.
I mean, like, the issue is like you're almost never ever gonna touch P2, like in the professional league. Like, it feels like it rarely happens. So like it's just so rare that it happens. Like,
yeah,
for the most part, it happened on the first rotation, but it almost is like a spot where you find yourself like trying to hit the hill, but you're funneling more numbers in. So like if you're losing all the numbers like in warehouse, like it almost feels like it's doomed, like regardless, because New York has to set up for the next hill and they have to dedicate a hard anchor essentially so they don't flip and have anyone sneak. But now it's London's turn to try and see if they can break New York, and you can already see the spread, it feels like, where they're actually putting their ARs in like much better advantageous spots. Like, look at Attach, like he's just sitting on the cop car, he ends up finding like an easy 2-piece here for himself, and because he's keep getting the useless spawn, like you can just maintain like sending one player over towards the right, making sure no one slips through green, deal with the player that's watching top green who's trying to find kills off of the actual spawn. And as long as you keep your ARs either P2 like watching, or rather like top P2 watching over towards the warehouse, or keeping someone where attaches or on that box heady where player 5 just died, like there's almost like no chance you're going to be able to break this hill unless you like dedicate every single member to full flooding the right. Like it's so weird because like it feels like I don't think enough teams like take their time to break this hill. Like you're only going to get 1 or 2 really good hits, right, when you're trying to break this hill. So like I feel like you need to like take like a breather and like all flood one side and get your smoke down, and Attach obviously just goes completely ham.
This is the one hill where accuracy will soak up all of his hill time too. He's at minute 40, but all of it's off P2. And you still, I mean, again, it is meriting to note that you got to give some respect for London for keeping the game relatively close, considering that Zero still hasn't broken 10 kills. Like, it's not good.
That's a tough
not
game.
good. And this is interesting. We actually kind of missed this here for a second. I'm going to back up real fast and just kind of call out this rotation that's about to happen. So watch the top part of your minimap as far as how this hit's going to come through. Zuma's going to realize that his teammates have it. 30 seconds left. He's going to find this kill and clear out all of the office. And then this is that same rotation that London made, but they were forced to make. So the fact that Zuma is already making a play for the back, you actually are putting London in a terrible position where they have to make a call. They're spawning essentially in the middle of the map throughout a lot of this, and they have to make a decision of, are we going to hit for this scrap time of maybe 20 seconds, or are we going to try to play all the way in the back to deal with the player that snuck through? And either is not good, you know, because right now, yeah, if you break this last 20, we're going to look at that as essentially being a success story for London, but they're still down 40 points if they break this hill for the last 20 seconds. And now New York is in a position to zone forward to essentially spawn trap them. This is them playing with the lead. And the other side of it is if they decide to turn around and play for the guy in the back, now New York has a free exit plus the scrap time. They could do whatever they want. So they're freeing up all the position in the middle of the map one way or the other, depending on what happens on the minimap. So this is a really heads up play for Zuma. And he finds the kill onto Zero. Is actually going to force New York to spawn into the warehouse. So, yeah, you're going to break here if you're London. But I think if you're New York, you look back on this and say, that's fine. Give them 15 seconds. Let's zone them, keep them behind P2, and let's get that significant amount of time on smokestack like we did the last time around.
It's funny though, because Zero's actually able to do the exact same thing that Zuma just did. And like, I feel like if he played the back just a little bit more, which he is doing a good job of staying alive right now, but like if he plays the back maybe and just waits for his teammates to get a little bit more map control, there's a chance to do it. But London do relatively get to the hill pretty quickly and kind of slay through the first kills. And oh my god, dude, he turns on acting. I don't remember seeing that one, but yeah, it's pretty disgusting. So despite the real sick route, London actually bounced back here pretty well.
Yeah, and I think you called it out exactly. The fact that Zero is also able to sneak through and essentially do the exact same thing. It's a tough position because when you're spawning warehouse like New York is, the last place you're really kind of worried about is that OE through green.
Yeah.
But I think you're right when it comes down to, okay, like as soon as you realize your team is spawning warehouse, like you got to get somebody as fast as possible up back to the office to try to hold on to that rotation. But yeah, good mitigation from London overall. You get that bit of scrap time and you keep New York from grabbing time. Now it's a 3v2 on the hill. Temp's going to win it. That's going to be initial time for the side of New York, unless you see Scraps do something special from the back, which he's actually going to go for a bit of a pinch here, and you call it for a second there. Look where New York is spawning. This is the last spot you want to be, is spawning in warehouse right now. This early onto the hill. This is good, really, really tough, because the rotation around the back is really tough to get to. The one through the side door is not safe because you could get hit at through vines on the jump, and then making the rotation around for back P5 spawns essentially means that you're giving up significant time on the hard point, which is actually what's currently happening. So this is actually a huge bounce back for London, who's about to hit the 200 point mark actually before New York. Kind of a bit of a folly here in the last two hills, to be honest.
Yeah, it feels like both teams aren't putting that much presence on making sure they're holding spawns for P5, and they're just worried about funneling numbers through the left side of the map when they have that close spawn. Like London had control of the spawns, like leading in toward P5, but then New York funneled two members that go through the left side here from the warehouse, and they're able to flip things back in their favor. And now you're at a point where at least if New York does hold on towards this full 60, like you're not going to lose the game off of it. So it's not like worst case scenario, but you obviously want to be able to get in contested here. And I think London are still splitting in, like they're pushing this like very separate and solo. Like, well, I think there's like little moments like this, even though it's hacking the yard, we just got to take a breather, like get your smoke ready and like actually coordinate a hit. And finally they're starting to do that through the left side.
Yeah, small spawn out here for New York on the north side. They're going to be able to still be able to hit, but it's going to be a little 50-50. And this is Temp playing a huge role. I mean, those are such big kills. And this is interesting. And this is where I really get a little nervous watching a lot of amateur teams in like the middle of challengers or like low tier challenger teams, is you're still thinking about the game as if it was the first rotation to the second. If you're New York right now, look at what they're doing. They're moving all the way around back through the OE as if they're going to play for P2. We're not going to get to P2. This isn't going to happen. Look at the score. New York's about to be in a position to where they can win the game off New Hill. This is actually a really dangerous play. And now that we're watching this back, I actually remember this, and I got a little nervous because London's going to be able to essentially get into the warehouse and set up exactly what they want, which is watch over the top, watch here, and then make sure someone's picking up the pinch while everyone else is turtles in the warehouse. This is a really risky play for New York. You're going to be short on numbers for the back half part of this rotation. You're going to secure the final 24, but you can't win off of this. And this is one of those dangerous moments to where if London can just win their 1v1s, New York's going to be in a really tough spot trying to break into this warehouse. And fortunately, Zuma does win a gunfight, and they're going to be able to sneak their way in. So it was one of those things that I saw that rotation happening, and I was like, yikes, careful here.
Yeah, I wonder if the thought process there was like to try and get that side of the map for your spawns and have one sneak through, just so that you have, like, it's easier to flood in through top AC and through the back door and scaffolding than just bottom and top. I wonder if that was the thinking. Like,
it's just one of those things that, like, it looks like New York's gonna clean this up. Yeah, they do. So they end up getting one last pinch in, but it's just going back one more time to like watch this rotation coming through. Like, if you give up this warehouse, and this is actually not exactly where it happens. So if you're London and you just have one player at tire shop, one player top AC, and you maybe have someone sitting in milk, you can hold that OE pretty easily. The problem here is Wuskin, I think, in my opinion. The fact that Wuskin's on the low ground trying to take a gunfight up top versus Temp, I think, is a mistake. I think he needs to be top L and just hold this down. There's really no reason to be here. If you can just hold the top L rotation and ask for help, and maybe you've got someone who's also with you kind of over the middle, maybe this is your setup where you just got one on the hill, you could actually bunker this hill pretty easily. Like, it's one of those things that, yeah, I think when you're 50-50ing, if you're spawning closer to P2, it's easier to get in. But if you're completely bunkered up and you read that the spawns are here, it's not impossible to hold. Like, the reason why we talk a lot, I think, about why going from 2 to 1, the tire shop into warehouse is easier, is because you also are starting to play for the spawns for P2. But you should be ignoring P2 right now. Like, this isn't going to happen. So if you're ignoring the idea of we don't actually want this part of the map for London and you're just holding this choke point, I think it's actually very possible to bunker up successfully. But it's just everyone's outside the warehouse. I mean, literally the only person that's inside right now is Shawnee.
But like the only one that's inside is Shawnee, but they also have like 20 seconds before the hill pops. So like it's one of those moments like in game as a player, I think, where New York understands that they have 20 seconds of breathing room, and it's like, okay, if we lose these gunfights on the other side of the map, we're going to spawn right beside the hill anyway, so we can still like buddy up with our teammates that are already in top L control. I think you're right where there's a big mistake here made from Muskin where he holds the wrong angle, and if he holds top L, he maybe finds this kill right onto Zuma right now, and if he does find that kill, then Zuma isn't able to get to top L, right? Which means that New York still doesn't have the information of is somebody top L, which is like the most important part of hitting this hill from this side of the map. So it's like it's a lot of like little things that I think play out for New York, but I think it's because they have so much breathing room still that it's like, okay, even if we lose the first initial hit on hitting the hill itself on P1, we still have time to coordinate another one without going completely panic and just you have to hero call with one player that just goes absolutely ballistic.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the thinking behind New York's play here.
It's one of those things that like here, if Wuska doesn't die right here, watch what happens to the spawn here in a second. Right on top of number 5 Zuma.
But Scraps and Shawnee able to pick it up.
Boom. He gets a teammate to spawn with him. Like, if Wuska just stays alive,
100%,
even if that's not a spawn for New York right there. New York's still spawning back top right corner. Like, that's what happens if Wuska stays alive or if he wins the gunfight. But instead, Wuska takes the gunfight versus Temp up top and he loses it. So that very well could have been the game because everything on the backside is cleared. For London, they cleared the backside of the hit, and so you're figuring that you're going to be flooding in to reinforce, and you could actually hold that for a little bit longer. But whoopsies, wrong button. That's just a little bit of unfortunate situation as far as what happens right there. So I would say good stuff overall. Like the way that New York is trying to play that map, I think is stronger than what we saw from London. But I still think that if Zero doesn't have a less than 10 kill first rotation, that things are completely different, right? Yeah, it's just like all of those things that we were commenting on go out the window if Zero just wins a couple of extra gunfights. Let's jump into the next one here while you're kind of wrapping that one up. I'll get it queued up for us.
Yeah, I feel like if Zero doesn't have, you know, a tough game as well, like maybe they're just going to have control of P2 and they never actually give up P2 to New York, right? Which is obviously, like, I feel like the pivotal point because every team that pretty much starts on the favorite side is typically the team that's winning the game. So yeah, it's also like kind of another big props to New York for taking the game away and not allowing London to be able to actually have a chance of closing that one out, having the favorite spawns. But yeah, it was a lot of clean rotations. I think from Zuma, like in particular, that brought that one home.
You like my shirt there, Prism? Feeling crabby? Love it. It's actually I used to work at Subway back when I worked at college, and I found this shirt, and I just kept it because I love the shirt.
There you go.
Funny. All right, let's jump into this next one, shall we? So this is Toronto versus Atlanta, Game 5. Grand Finals, CDL Toronto. We know how this one ends, obviously, but there were a lot of really cool, creative plays that Toronto was able to put together. And I know that you as a Toronto fan always get really nervous when you watch the Toronto Ultra play in Search and Destroy, mostly because they put themselves in really weird spots. But this was the one weekend where we watched Toronto and we're like, oh, dude, these are some creative executions on their attacks, especially.
Yeah, I think they played with like a totally different type of confidence coming in towards this. I mean, this entire event, obviously, it was like their own home event, so it felt really good to be able to watch it. But yeah, there was a lot of different things that I felt like you saw, and it wasn't just the Cammy show either. Like a lot of people can go big.
Exactly.
I mean, this is Vance is like known for taking over in Search and Destroys in particular, but yeah, this is a super tight one, right? And like you already have yourself a spot here where the first round, obviously A is going to be the typical bomb site here for us, but Atlanta have control and no one's gone down on the map yet, which means that as soon as someone makes a play here, which you can see player 9 currently doing, if Priest is able to find any value with a kill or even 2 and plays his life, this is just going to allow an easy hit to come through. But
well, that help is so big, dude. This help is so incredible. So essentially what you have here, and we saw a little bit of on screen, but Toronto is all up in this window at the beginning, which is like super typical, right? Like there's always somebody that's up there. I guess we'll do Toronto in blue. We'll do Atlanta in the pink here. There was that one moment where Nades and Abeezy's SMG were tagging up whoever was up top. I think it was No, not Cammy. It was
Methods.
Methods.
I think it was Methods.
Yeah, it was Methods that was up top. I don't know how Methods doesn't die. He took about half a clip worth of MP5 and a Semtex, but he was able to still stay alive. The thing is, once they get shrugged out of this window, they make the exact right play in backing up and essentially helping over the middle, and then making sure Bance has good assistance from a safe angle inside the A archway, which is how CleanX is able to not just get one, but get two. Like a BZ, he's in such a good spot to find that kill. CleanX saves a life, and then he finds the second. That's just a clutch play from CleanX.
Yeah, he saves like his Bance also like doesn't challenge too, and he tucks away in his corner, and like also like relies on CleanX being able to make that play too. So there's a lot of trust made in that play.
Yeah. Good spot for Maniac to get on top of the double box to see over the top of the preset smoke. But loses the second. And this is the whole thing that, you know, you see this pretty regularly, I feel like. This will kind of go backwards and just kind of pick out how this rotation came around the back. You're going to see it on the minimap here. There are two members that are defensively positioned over towards B. And as soon as they realize the middle of the map is free, you're going to have Cammy take the long route all the way back, while you've got Classic that tries to work his way into the site to essentially try to reinforce. But this is pretty common. If the defenders over towards B are in a spot to where they're starting to read the numbers that are happening over towards the A site, they'll go for this little bit of a long flank. So Cammy's all the way around the back. Number 2 in Classic is going to try to reinforce the front. And that's exactly what you want to see. Timing-wise, this is going to turn out perfectly. The bomb will still go down, but you're still going to be able to execute on this flank pretty nicely. And this is just going to be a full surround. And as the Classic is able to reinforce and find the trade, now you've got the cheeky flank, and now you've got numbers.
This is the problem when you take too long planning the bomb and gaining control, right? Like, I mean, it's obviously off the back end of CleanX finding the 2-piece, but when you're attacking this A site, you never feel confident dropping the bomb until you have top apartments control. And on top of that, like it felt like Atlanta took a little bit too long to try and make a play and clear things out, and it gave a lot of time for Toronto to be able to collapse.
I think a lot of that too, though, is that they put so much of their utility up top window that they don't have the utility to flush out Bance for free, right? I mean, they double Semtex the window and threw a couple of stuns, so Bance was just lucky to be alive, I think, because they were throwing so much investment to the top window, looking for that kill onto Methods, and they never got it. If that kill onto Methods comes through sooner, if there maybe it's 10mm ammo was a thing in this event. Wait, it was actually. I'm totally kidding. If they find that kill onto Methods, though, that's a totally different situation. Then you can flood Bance. And this is one of those creative plays that we're kind of talking about for Toronto. They like to go B, but they do it in a really unorthodox way, as we were talking through all of that. But essentially what they're doing is they're showing force through the top side of River, and then a late smoke comes out, and they hit this pinch really, really late. They're trying to essentially draw Atlanta to be in the top of this window and to be outside Riverwalk. They know that there's two players that are over here. It just comes down to, can you catch the players that are rotating out of A to help this defensively? And that's the whole idea as far as how this hit comes through.
Coming in from Toronto.
So there's the show of force. The smoke comes out on the right side. Here come the numbers, and they do actually flip one player over, but this is just really good trust, I think, from Simp to be like, okay, I'm in a safe spot. I can watch the top side of this. You guys keep watching the middle of the map, and that's going to be enough for them to take care of this late pinch that's trying to come through the middle of this tram yard.
I like this setup out of these two.
So here's Bance. He sneaks through, finds himself one, but again, there's good help for the immediate trade, and Major Maniac makes a good play.
And now it's kind of panic mode for Toronto, because you have the bomb still in the middle of the map. You obviously only have one left alive. Phoenix just lost Cammy, and yeah, this is a really clean defensive round for Atlanta FaZe. I also think that they recognize that Toronto is, you know, a little bit of a curveball team and like to do some of these unorthodox strats. So like you can see them setting up different to how you might set up, you know, against like, I feel like, you know, well-coordinated teams that are just always going to make the same predictable play over towards A for the most part here.
This is a really cheeky play. I mean, CleanX has to find kills. He realizes it. And so you put yourself in a position maybe you could catch somebody off guard. That's tough. No chance.
No.
And no,
actually, if you did, it would be crazy. But
I like
yeah,
that call from Merc as well. You know, like it's a 1v4. Like, go make a play. Otherwise, you're giving the field upgrade charge over to your opponents. And yeah, the entire team for Atlanta fully ready to go with dead silence and trophy systems. Same defensive setup, though, for Toronto. You've got Cammy and Classic once again playing the long flank, but they're hitting it more aggressively this time. And they do actually run into one. So Priesta falling, that's once again going to put an immediate stop likely to Atlanta. Atlanta has to make a decision right now. with them knowing that the flank could potentially be opened quickly, you need to make a call. And with your bomb already being on the site, they make the right call. Essentially sitting there saying that, okay, Priestess gets the intel on 2 players that are hitting the flank. We should have a 4-on-2, maybe a 4-on-3 at worst. Let's try to take the fight right to him and try to push through the A site and maybe make a play to B. That's at least an option, right? Like if you win these gunfights convincingly, you could do one of 2 things. You could either push to B, or if you feel like you're not winning those gunfights, maybe you could get into apartment and you could just try to bunker a little bit and try to hold off this flank a little bit later on. But they're going to try to push right into A, and Merc calls that out exactly as it happens. The problem is Toronto is very ready for that. Kleenex is in the same spot that he was the round before. And with him finding 1 kill, that might just be enough, right?
This is another point where like time is not on your side for Atlanta FaZe. So like you're either hoping for someone to over peek and check the bomb, or you have to try and push some things out. Like you have to try and go for top apartments control. You have to try and double it. Like you have to do something here because the time's going to tick down, and Toronto knows where you are. And BZ finally is able to make that play happen so that they do have some little bit of control. But because of that pinch that comes in, I mean, Classic, I believe, gets a little eye on the foot. Simp holds the angle, finds the kill, and now it's a 2v2 that plays out, and Methods is able to grab himself a second, and Cammy just finishes off the last player where he knows where he is. So it's another spot where when you're going to attack A, if you use all your tacticals and lethals and you don't find any value off of it, you don't find any kills, then you almost feel obligated to then make a force play with your dead silence to go top apartments like a BZ did. It just, I felt like, again, it happened a tad bit late when you know at least one player is collapsing on you on the flank.
It's also, I mean, again, Kleenex does his job. He holds the back A archway and gets 1 kill. Like if he dies right there, Atlanta pushes through and they watch. Then maybe BZ makes the same play to try to check the back stairs, but because Kleenex gets that 1 kill and Atlanta is still down on numbers, there's just not a lot that they could do. It's just there's really not a position.
Try though, right? You have to try. Like you can't just sit there and let the time run out.
I'm right there with you when it comes to like, okay, like you have to take the lesser of 2 evils in that instance. But I think that how they were playing it, knowing they got the kill at Band's top apartment, and with Simp still staying in small room, you're just hoping that someone can make a special play. It was just too, I mean, again, it's the numbers just don't favor them. They have to play it individualistically. I think even when you lose that 4th member trying to make that push through, even try to make a desperate cross, because it's one of those things that like Toronto very well could already be pushing up the middle of the map. Like you don't know if that rotation is safe once you lose that other member. You just don't have the ability to play the trades as well. And I don't really know what Methods is trying to do from the backside of that room, trying to find an ambitious angle versus Priesta, but Simp absolutely punishes him. Yeah, Merc is just as impressed as I am, I think. I don't know how Kleenex reads that play.
Simps running back to his teammates. I'm just thinking he's running back and keeping.
Oh, now it's a race for the back here. Flower control, and Kleenex then finds that kill and just hits the Jets, man. He hits the Jets and just bolts it to the back and beats Celian back for the 50-50. Like, actually such a sick play from Kleenex here. Like, I'm pretty sure Toronto win this round in the 4v2, but it's definitely because of him.
I want to say Priesta does make things interesting here, though. No, this is really good. Cammy just staying alive.
BZ gets the kill inside of the site. He takes
Wow.
two.
Maybe I'm eating my words.
Now 2 versus 2. They know where one player is positioned, but they have to work this defuse.
Oh my God.
Time to go, and Priest out through the smoke, looking for the 2v4.
Dude, no way.
Kleenex to now make the play.
Oh, I remember this round now. I was so pissed.
Yeah, the bomb gets defused. Does he not check in time? Is this what it is? It's like a split second too late.
Almost gets it. He just about gets it. And the fuse went through.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
like, both of them didn't know. Yeah, I remember this round now.
So
yeah,
this is how this 4v2 breaks loose. Here's the problem. You've got Cammy in the back, and I hate to say it, but Cammy just needs to sit there and just exist. He just needs to not have help. Like, what you essentially have is Kleenex tries to wrap back to help Cammy in this 1v1 situation, and honestly, Cammy just needs to stay prone and just wait for Priesta, especially after he tags him up coming forward. This is just a problem. I think actually, is it Classic that rotates back to help him? I forget what happens, but someone comes through and tries to help. Maybe it is just Kleenex that eventually gets the trade, but you're just allowing too much of an opportunity, I think, for a BZ on this site to make a play. That's kind of the only, yeah, it is Kleenex that just sits there, and Banson Yeah, Benson Classic just get worked by a BZ.
Yeah, I mean, there's no trade. Like, that's, I mean, this is definitely like the whole point of like the big play right here is
Yeah.
Easy opens up with a 2-piece, and then everyone knows, like Priesta knows that both players are on him right now, so like they just have more information than Toronto in the situation.
Yeah, and you see
Once
it right
the BZ opens
here.
up.
Kleenex is going to help to go help Cammy, and then realizes after he loses his teammates, oh shoot, I actually need to go help the site. So he actually wraps back. But if I think if Kleenex could just get into the top side of apartment sooner, and you still, even if you still get doubled up on the site, you're still in such a strong position to clutch the round out from up top, especially considering that Cammy is killing time on the backside of this. So a bit of a fumble here from Toronto, but that's good. Like, things like that are going to happen when you play Atlanta. It's just, it's.
Got stuck.
Yeah, let's fast forward here. We're running out of time.
One versus attention towards the site.
I think something to note too is that Simp was really hot with a sniper this weekend, like really hot. Like I think he had one of the best KDs.
I agree.
Think he made a new a new record. I'm pretty sure it was like a 12.0 KD or something. And like you could see Toronto like not stacking anyone in the middle of the map on their defenses. Really, like they're always holding off angles when they're watching this push through. So like they're not trying to give Simp any kind of value with it, which is also something you have to think when Toronto are setting up for a lot of the defenses here.
Same setup once again for Toronto. Classic Cammy playing over towards B, but this time they're not going to play for the flank. They've already given consideration that they know Atlanta has to watch this, so instead they're going to try to full flood in for a retake. And Priest is in a really great spot. So a couple of different setups. Again, Toronto's playing a little passively inside of A overall, and it's again allowing Atlanta to make good plays, but it's one of those things that, because I think it's Toronto just sitting here thinking that, hey, like, we've hit the flank a lot successfully. Atlanta's probably watching this. Let's just try to flood and reinforce once the retake is necessary. And they've killed off enough time here again. And Cammy's going to hear a couple. He does find one, but he gets the read on the intel, which is important.
Yeah, they know that they're rotating now, and hey, this is the first time that they're able to deal with Kleenex as well, like right in towards the underpass. So it finally gives a little bit of breathing room here for Atlanta FaZe. And this is Method's like sick play. So like when you're a player in this situation and you're in a 1v1, you have to remember that Method doesn't have dead silence here. And I'm pretty sure Maven or Merc touch on this in this specific play. And you almost know, like, the majority of the time that, like, 5 to 6 seconds after the bomb's been planted, like, you're thinking that the player's going to be rotating to you because you know where he is. So the fact that Methods makes the call to actually, like, go for this defuse, like, is it's a perfect read, man. Like, this is, like, actually, like, an amazing read. And it's in a situation where you're in a game 5, like, search and destroy here for your first potential title in Modern Warfare. So there's, like, a lot of pressure to make that. And a lot of players would probably go looking for the kill or wait, like, and hold the pre-aim top flowers. So that was actually a crazy 1v2 for Methods.
And all of that is, again, I think, just because of what fielder upgrade he's running. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, and Merc was calling that right now. Yeah.
Maybe he thinks he's going to hear him and just didn't. I don't know, because you would expect maybe
Another B execute for Toronto, at least in the middle of the map. Leaning towards B, I should say. I shouldn't say it's a B execute yet. But another different look. You know, again, Toronto's just trying to flood through the middle. They've read the fact that Priest elects to play top. So you just essentially throw an aggressive smoke and try to get behind it. This is what we talked about. We said, like, how creative is this play from Toronto? I mean, you essentially know every single round so far, you've had Priesta on your left window, essentially, your perspective left window. The worst angle that he has is if you put some kind of covering fire and you full flood right down Main Street. You just go right through the tunnel. I love it because they also, I think, have read the fact that you've got other players that have been kind of sitting and paying attention to River. And so, again, you just get a good smoke down, a forward smoke, and you push right through it. You get behind, and then you get the kills before the defense can fully set up behind it. This is such a creative play from Toronto.
Yeah, on top of it, you have Cammy also watching the cross too, right? So, like, as soon as you get control of this B site, you have Cammy who just funnels the information saying, hey, guys, 3 players just rotated out. And then Toronto know where the last remaining targets are on the map. And, yeah, they deal with them all accordingly. So, yeah, this is that little spicy round that comes through on the offense here. And it's really hard to adjust to for FaZe because if you stack too many members outside of the A bomb site, like, it's so hard to retake that site when you have 3 or 4 people that are actually inside defending it. So, like, this is the problem when you're thinking for Atlanta FaZe on future defenses as well.
That's just such a cool adjustment, though, for Toronto.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
And that's one of the things, like, we don't often see teams go and, like, put a lot of investment towards B early, but it's one that, like, after watching them, not just in this series, but also when they played Dallas, and they did essentially the same thing. It gives you, like, there's only so many defensive looks that you're going to read at A. Top side apartment, inside arches. It's really about it. I mean, maybe every now and again you'll see an aggressive push through where the defenders at A will throw a lot of their nades early up the middle and try to sneak someone to small room, but you can read, I think, so much more information as you make a play towards B. How are they trying to rotate from A to B? Where are they setting up? How can we try to exploit that setup? As defensively now, Toronto's looking a little bit weaker as far as how they're holding the middle of the map, and that's just the ARs from Atlanta just winning out the gunfights mostly.
Yeah, they slow things down, right? They know Toronto's been playing pretty fast in some of these hot flanks, and I think that Atlanta FaZe makes the call to say, let's just try and slow things down for the first 30 seconds of the round, and it ends up resulting in a couple of first kills that come through and just gives them the massive advantage. And then Phoenix, of course, with another 1v situation here, just trying to go for a nice little chow, but can't win it out. So yeah, Atlanta FaZe adjust to how Toronto have been playing some of their offenses, and they make sure that they're contesting the mid-map, like you said, because giving
that's
that
so
over
important too.
when you're on the offensive side, yeah, it gives you so many options, and that's not what you want the opposing team to have on defense, is options when you're trying to attack a site.
Am I remembering right? Isn't this when Simp starts to pull out the sniper rifle more regularly on defense as well?
Maybe. I know Atlanta FaZe, I'm pretty sure, are able to bounce back with a couple of rounds in a row.
Cam has been uncontested, and I don't remember if it's because Simp pulls out a scope to respond or not. Doesn't look like it. He's still playing aggressively into apartments. Maybe it was a different game that I'm thinking of, but I remember thinking it was weird that Atlanta had not pulled out a sniper rifle on this map at all, and then they pulled it out like round 7, round 8. And like completely threw a monkey wrench into all the adjustments that whoever they were playing, I don't remember, but I thought it was this game, but I may be wrong.
Toronto slowing it down a bit,
and this is oh my god, dude. Okay, so let's go backwards here just really quickly. We're running out of time here. Last thing we'll break down because we know how this game ends with the 1v2 clutch up. But I love this play from Atlanta, this adjustment. We talk about the adjustments that Toronto's been making to essentially get aggressive over towards B. You know you've got a player that's top left window, a player is usually top right. Atlanta is starting to realize, hey, we're not getting any resistance at A. Let's play a little forward and see if we could sneak a kill. And that's 100% what happens here to get themselves an opening first blood. This is so smart from Atlanta to adjust. There's the play through. Beezy's going to push through small, checks his corners, has good help from Simp. And then there's the opening first blood onto Cammy, who's stuck watching from top blue, trying to watch that long cross. That's so smart. I love that play.
Yeah, it's also another one of those moments where like you're also in a game 5 round, like, you know what I mean? Like
it's so
like,
risky,
deep in towards the rounds. Yeah, so like you're at Toronto, you're like, oh, there's no way that they ever try and push through here. And then you're just like, wait, what the hell? A BZ just pushed through here and first blooded us, and then of course now Toronto's setup is known. Like they're known that they don't have any map control. So yeah, this is a really good call from a BZ, and it feels like it's probably one of those moments where you're just feeling it and you make the call to do it and it pays off.
Yep. Ah, man. All right, so that's gonna probably do it here. We know how round 11 goes. We'll miss the last executed round for Toronto, but hopefully that lends some insight to like things to look forward to in today's games. Prism, we are not doing a watch party, but if there are enough people that are interested in like if we were to do a watch party and like we would just blow up the minimap essentially, we'll just show that in our faces. Maybe I'll ask for like permissions to run one. Maybe for like finals day or so, like finals weekend or something like that, if you guys are interested in that. But I would need to know, like, if we only hold 15 viewers for it, it's not worth it, in my opinion, for us to do it, unfortunately. So it would have to be a much more well-attended watch party, I think. And I just don't think that we're going to have the numbers to merit the approval processes to do a simultaneous watch party. So we didn't do this last time. Let's do this today. What are your predictions for today, Visions? Who you got winning both games, starting with New York, Minnesota? What do you got?
I think oh man, this is tough because I've been hearing some good things about Minnesota, but
Me too.
I think that I think that New York's gonna clutch up. I heard Zuma's motivational speech on Reddit last night to the whole group in the call, and I think that New York's gonna be able to close things out, probably 3-1. Might go to a game 5 and they might clutch up, but I think they're gonna take the series. And then the flip side, I think the Toronto boys got London. I don't know. I just don't see anything from London that just like stands out to me. And I think there's a lot that stands out from Toronto coming off the last event. And they'll win.
What do you got map count wise?
I think they're going to 3-0 London.
3-0 London, huh?
I think they're going to momentum swing like after the hardpoint win. And I think they're going to smoke them.
All right.
Maybe the map set will play against me, but I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. The map set isn't all that great. I got 3-1 New York, and I've got 3-2 Toronto. I've got London losing I've got them losing the last search. I've got them losing the Dom and losing one of the hard points. But I still think that London could take one of the searches and one of the hard points. I think it just comes down to who picks what, but we'll see how things go.
Yeah,
that's going to do it, though. We'll be back at the end of the day right here to do the diffuse, to kind of break things down in about 30 minutes or so, to a little bit of a talk show setup for you guys. And then we'll be back again tomorrow before the games start with more of this. So if you guys are enjoying this, please go out there and just like promote it on social if you can. I think this is a really cool piece of content, and I think that, you know, for Austin and I, we have a lot of these great ideas, and they usually get stifled by the fact that nobody watches. So if you think this is good content, please promote it as much as you can. It'd be a super huge help. And enjoy the games. We'll be back with more after the games are over. I'm trying to find my awesome NFL Films music. All right, bye.